chat. Welcome to class. This is Brittany from Tombow, and your instructor tonight is Grace. She is on the Tombow design team, and she is going to be teaching you guys all about brush lettering using our dual brush pens. We are very excited to have you guys here in class tonight. Make sure you use the chat to say hello. Let us know where you're from. We are going to have a lot of people in this class, and Grace has a ton of information that she's going to share with you guys. So once we get started, if you could please make sure to use the chat for questions regarding lettering or anything that she's talking about. It'll make it so much easier for you guys to get answers. But we have people who are joining from all over. We've got Florida, California, Ohio, Nebraska, Texas. Oh, this is awesome. Michigan, Virginia, yeah, more Texas, Connecticut. So again, welcome you guys. We're gonna let a few more people join before Grace gets started, but this is Grace, your instructor. She is a member of the Tombow design team, and she's going to be teaching you all about brush lettering and modern calligraphy using the Tombow dual brush pens. If you get behind or you want to re-watch anything from tonight's class, then you can watch the replay on michaels.com. It'll be up early next week. So Grace, I am gonna go ahead and kick it over to you to get started.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Brittany. Okay, hi you guys. My name is Grace. I am from Grace Ann Studio. I live in North Texas now, but I grew up just outside of Houston. So Texas, born and raised. I've been on the Tombow design team. This is my second year, and I really enjoyed it. And one of my favorite things is the dual brush pens. You took my ABT Pro class, you know, it's a very strong tie between the two markers. They're both so good, but they're, oh my gosh, I just saw someone comment on the pens behind me. Believe me, it's taken me years and years to build up that stash, but yes, I love them. Anyways, I love both the markers, and I am so excited to teach you guys some introduction to brush lettering. Today we are going to go relatively quickly because there are lots of you, and there's a lot of information that we have to cover today, and I want to make sure we get through everything. So we're going to go at a pace that keeps us at about an hour for the class, but I just want to make sure that we get through everything. I do have a few resources for you that Michaels is going to send out through the chat, just so that you have some physical takeaways. It's going to be some content that I talk about, and so also some practice sheets for you guys from Tombow that you can use to trace and practice your letters and build up muscle memory. So you'll have that as well. Let's see. I think we're ready to go ahead and get started and check out our supplies. So you'll see my hands now. Here we go. Okay, so today we are going to be learning Introduction to Brush Lettering. We're gonna write all this at the very end. We'll say practice makes progress, and I'm gonna be using the Bohemian 10-pack. Really, as long as you have one dual brush pen or some kind of a brush pen, it'll work. You just need something to learn how to use the dual brush pens. Lots of time when people start lettering, they start with the smaller brush. So if at any point you feel like the dual brush pens are a little bit too flexible for you, try switching over to the smaller pen, which is the Funosuke. And actually, I probably have one right here too. Let's see. Yep. So this is the Funosuke hard tip. It's dark blue, and it has a much smaller tip than the, something on there. Anyways, much smaller tip than the dual brush pens. But today is all about the dual brush pens, so let's get back to those. As I said, this is the Bohemian 10-pack. It was linked in the sign up. It has 10 beautiful colors, and we'll get to them. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about the pen itself. If you're not familiar with the dual brush pens, they are a dual tip pen, hence dual brush. One side is a flexible brush tip, and as you can see, it's very large, so you'll need to write large. The other side is a bullet tip or a fine tip, and it writes about this size up here where I have Bohemian written, and it's just great for outlining or adding embellishments or even just drawing letters rather than doing brush calligraphy as well. So there's that option, but today we're really going to be focusing on the brush tip and learning how to take advantage of moving the pen to create these letters. It is a water-based pen, and what that means is that you can blend it with water. You can also blend two colors together with each other, and they're self-cleaning. We may or may not get to that, but it's something that we will be covering in my next class, Brush Lettering Techniques. It's on July the 9th. So if you're interested in that, go sign up for that. But today I'm really going to try to focus on just getting down the basics of using the dual brush pens for brush lettering. So now that we talked about those, I'm going to put this away. The next thing I want to look at is resources. This is one of the sheets that you guys are going to be getting, and it has a list of all of my favorite papers that are safe to use with the dual brush pens, because these tips are delicate. Let's just say that. So the material that they're made out of, and brush pens in general, you want to use a very smooth paper with them. Regular copy paper is not smooth. You may think that it is, but it's not. The tooth or texture of it, if you feel it, this is regular copy paper that I use, and I know you can't feel it, but it has grit to it, and that grit is what's going to fray your dual brush pens. And if you've ever invested in these, you know how much you want to take care of them and preserve them. So one of the main things that you can do is to use good paper. So there's going to be a great list of that on here, excuse me. But really just make sure you're using a smooth paper. Pens, these are other good starter pens or pens that you can graduate to, and I give a good description of them all here. As well as some extras that make just lettering more fun, because lettering's about fun, right? So you guys will get a copy of this, and Michael's is also going to email it out to you guys after. So if you're not able to grab it from the chat or however they're putting it up there, then just look out for an email from Michael's. Next, oh, you know what? Before we get on to this little guy, there is, I just want to touch on storage real quick. For the dual brush pens, they can be stored either horizontally or vertically, and they won't dry out either way. So however you store them is totally fine. I actually store them both ways. Over here, well, you can't see it anymore, but a second ago behind me, all my pens are stored vertically, or horizontally rather, but I actually have a bunch of the Tombow storage as well, and I have pens that are vertical, and they've both lasted me. I mean, my first dual brush pens are 5 years old, and I still use them sometimes. So take care of your pens, and they'll last a really long time. All right. Before we pick up a pen and start drawing, I just want to touch real quick on the anatomy and vocabulary around lettering so that you know what I'm talking about. Most of what we're going to be talking about is going to be an upstroke or downstroke. There's also the layout of, goodness, my mind's drawing a blank, but the layout of the spacing and the lines. So the top line here is your cap height, and that's going to be the height of your capital letters. The middle line is going to be your X height, and that is going to be the top of all of your lowercase letters, with the exception of your like T's and taller letters. They're going to come up to this line that's slightly above the cap height. That's called the ascender line. So your lines with ascender, they're going to go down at the bottom. The bottom line is called the baseline, and this is going to be where all of your letters rest. So we are just going to be focusing on keeping all of our letters straight within these lines. I'm sure you've heard on heard of bounce lettering, but today we are just going to be learning traditional, basic, regular brush lettering. So an upstroke, those are going to be the strokes that you make when your pen is moving up on the page. And when you do that, you want to use very light pressure. And when you use light pressure, it's going to make a very thin line. So that's where you get your thins and all of these letters. Okay? When you have a downstroke, it's when your hand is moving down on the page. And that is going to make a thick, what's called downstroke, right? So that's where you get all of the thicks. So upstrokes and downstrokes. There's also a lead-in stroke, and that is what we're going to use to connect our letters. So those are the basic terms that I'm going to be using, but I'm sure you're all anxious to go ahead and start learning something and getting your hands dirty and doing this along with me if you want. So I'll set this aside. And these are the sheets that you'll be emailed out after. These are just instructions, but you'll have just a blank page like this that has everything that you can practice. And then there are also drills, as well as all of the lowercase letters. And where are you? Here we go. Uppercase letters as well. So you guys will get these. We're not going to go through these today. If you do use these, I suggest either printing them out on the HP 32-pound LaserJet paper that's really smooth, or print them out one time and then get some tracing paper and lay it over. And then you can use that right behind it and trace it as many times as you want. So there's that option as well. Let's see. Okay. I think we're ready to start learning some brush strokes. So I am using a Strathmore marker paper. It is very, very smooth, and I completely trust it with my dual brush pens. It's a nice thick paper, so it's great for a final piece. You can blend on it and do all sorts of fun things, but today I'm just going to use it as a nice smooth surface. So I'm going to set this away. And here we go. Here are my drills. So these are the drills that we're going to be walking through. The first thing that we're going to do is the downstroke. And you can just pick up whichever pen you'd like. Blue is my favorite color, so I'm going with 528, but again, any color works. And you can just start at the top of your page and press down really hard and just make a downstroke. Okay? And I would just keep doing that a few times. You'll hear the marker squeaks, and that's always fun. A hallmark of the Tombow dual brush pens. So what you're looking for here is nice, consistent angles and also a consistent thickness all the way across. So you're looking for pressure that's staying the same all the way down, as well as the angle being the same as you pull it down. So you don't want to draw, for example, one going this way and then the next letter has the same straight down, but it goes this way. You want all of your downstrokes to be the same angle. Okay, when you're varying something, you typically do that more with your upstrokes, but your downstrokes are going to be what kind of grounds your lettering. So really try to keep those as straight and as even as possible. With the dual brush pens, and the best way to get that specific angle and the specific thickness all the way down is to use great pen position, okay? So you may have noticed when I'm writing, I'm not holding my pen like this. I don't have it gripped really close to it. When I'm writing just with a pencil, this is how I hold my pen, right? I'm basically writing right on top of it, and I'm holding the pen almost straight up and down. So when you do that, if I were to draw with my dual brush pen straight up and down, you're really gonna number one, ruin your pen quickly, because instead of the entire length and using the side of your dual brush pen, you're just bending over the very tip of it. Okay, and so that's going to be another thing that frays your pen faster, is only using the tip of it. So really try to keep your pen at a 45-degree angle. Grip your pen a little bit further back, and also hold it in the crook of the hand. And do you guys mind switching to the top view real quick, just so we can see how the pen is in my hand? Awesome, thank you. So you can see, instead of holding it up here but on my fingers, I'm holding it between my thumb and my knuckles, and that helps me to keep it at that nice 45-degree angle also. So hand elongated in the corner, and not up and down. Okay, keep it at that angle, and then that way when you're drawing or writing, you use the whole length of the pen. Okay, so you can see the difference. This was with it straight up and down, and this was with it off to the side. You'll use that same pen position for the upstrokes, but instead of starting at the top and going down, you start at the bottom of your line and use light pressure, and you can get a really nice thin upstroke. Okay, so we'll just start at the bottom and move our way up. Start at the bottom, use very light pressure. And one thing that I love about the dual brush pens is that you can get a huge variety of line thickness with just one pen. So you can get these really huge, thick downstrokes, or you can not press as hard and get a thinner downstroke for drawing a little bit smaller. But you really have a huge variety of size that you can get with the dual brush pen. But I mean, they're always going to be big. It's just, are they big or extra large, essentially? But for upstrokes, you just start at the bottom and work your way up. And I'm actually starting to draw a little too fast there. One thing, or another thing rather, there's gonna be lots of one things. Another thing with brush calligraphy is that you want to draw very slowly, okay? It is not like, it's not like handwriting, okay? It's not writing your grocery list. It's drawing letters, essentially. So each letter is broken down into different strokes, and all of those strokes are going to be made up of either upstrokes or downstrokes, okay? So now that we have those down, we'll move to the next one, which is going to be connecting those. And to start with that, we'll use the straight lines. So we're going to draw this, and then we'll move to the last two curved connections. All right. And drawing these drills is a really great way to warm up your hand as well. If you're drawing right now and you feel like your hands are really, really shaky, you are not alone. I spent 30 minutes warming up before this call and just doing drills and writing the alphabet and doing whatever I could to warm my hands up and just build that muscle memory back up. So practice is the #1 way to get rid of the shakes. Just practice and be consistent with it, and then always make sure that you're warming up as well. So to connect the two, I'm going to have a light upstroke, but this time it's going to be at an angle. And then again, pressing down because I'm moving my pen down on the page, I'm using the side of my brush pen, and I just move my pen down at an angle. Okay, again, starting at the bottom and connecting it all the way up to the top. And then we're going to start pressing down at an angle. And as you practice, you'll see your upstrokes and downstrokes are getting more consistent. You're having more consistent line weights. The downstrokes, they're pretty easy to keep the thickness all the same, excuse me. But the upstrokes, I mean, you can see even with mine, right? Like, that one I kind of got a little wonky. It was a little thinner down here than it was up there, and that's just totally fine. You can always go back over it and even up that thickness, right? It's not gonna mess anything up to go back over it. All right, so we'll go side and up and back down, and we'll just finish that out. You'll notice as I'm writing, my hand is off to the side. It's not writing right on top of it. Again, constantly check your pen position. If this was an in-person class, what really takes the longest is me going around and adjusting people's hands. I go around, put it in the correct position. Nope, don't write here, write over here. So just try the best for that. For lefties, I do know that the Tombow website and Lauren from Red Made Calligraphy is a lefty letterer. And I know she has some good tips on lettering for lefties. And I believe Tombow has a blog post on it as well. I'm obviously right-handed. So I've had people in my classes that are left-handed. And they pretty much, I mean, my daughter's left-handed, so I'm trying to learn how to teach her as well. But you basically take what I'm showing you and however it is that you write, because it's my understanding that lefties are all a little bit different in their technique, you kind of make it work for you. So find an angle, use, sorry, I had to concentrate because I was writing with my left hand. Find your angle that's really going to work so that you're using the side of the brush pen, and go from there. Okay. All right. Let's see. So we've got our basic straight strokes. Now let's move to the curved strokes. So to do that, at the bottom, we'll start with our upstroke. So we're going to move up, and then as you start to curve over at the top, you're going to gradually start to apply pressure. And you start thinking about applying pressure before you actually do, if that makes any sense. So when I get to about here on the curve, I'm going to start thinking about applying pressure. And then when you get over off to the side, apply pressure. And again, as you get to the bottom, you're lightening up with that pressure again. Okay. And as you lighten up with pressure, you'll have a curve at the bottom that's going to be light. And then up over the top, you're turning and you're applying pressure again. And mine are a little wonky right now if you see it from the top, because I'm trying to stop and show you all of the angles that you're applying pressure to. So you apply pressure and then you lighten up, and then over at the top, apply pressure. And basically you're just meaning, you're just making waves essentially, right? Light pressure going up as you curve, light pressure going up as you curve, and then over off to the side, it's going to be lightening up at the bottom. This right here is actually the one that I typically use to warm up, because it's just such a good, it's a good thing to practice. So you'll get muscle memory as you do this more, and that's really the only way you can do it. It's just to practice. And I think, so when you get to about right here, start thinking about letting up on your pen. So some people, or me even specifically, if I had thought about it, I would have got out my original stuff to show you guys, because, oh my goodness, I had such a hard time with this one at the beginning. But a lot of the problems that I see is that these curves, this is thick down here at the bottom. And what makes it really pretty when you're lettering or doing brush calligraphy is that this right here is going to be light. So just make sure that when you're practicing, you're really practicing lightening up on that pressure. And again, it's just going to take practice. I remember when I first started learning, I actually sat down and thought, man, I'm artistic. I'm going to be great at this. This is going to be so easy. And it was not. It was so hard. And I've been doing brush calligraphy for about 4 years now, and I can finally say, yes, I love it, and I feel like I'm good at it. But I promise we've all been there. So do not worry if you feel like this is really hard, that you're not doing well, because you just got to practice, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so let's finish out the page with this. Or not the page, oh my goodness, that would be a lot of time. Down, up. And again, you want to go slow, because that will really help you with that connection as well. Okay, the last one drill that we're going to go through is going to be drawing the letter O, essentially. It's going to be completing a circle. I know some people like to start with the downstroke on this one. I personally prefer to work a little backwards. So I start with my upstroke, and then I move over into my downstroke and back up into my upstroke. I find I can do it if I start with the downstroke and then up and then down into it. But I just find it's a little bit smoother for me personally if I start with my upstroke and move up into the side. But either way, whichever way you're more comfortable doing it, go for it. It's as long as you can make this circle at the end, that's what you're looking for. So you want to have a downstroke. Again, you're going to lighten up that pressure, and then when you get to the top, you're moving back, and you're going to try to keep that same width. Again, that you're going to get that by having muscle memory. You're going to get that by having by practice. That's the only way that you'll be able to build it up. It's not something that you can just magically snap your fingers and get, but you know, with practice, I promise you can get there. I truly believe that this can be for anybody. You don't have to have great handwriting. You just have to be committed to practicing. That's really all there is to it. So your downstrokes, again, we're going to start with a downstroke on this one, a thick line going down. Upstrokes are the thin lines moving up on the page, and again, back down into a downstroke. Okay? Don't be afraid to press down on the dual brush pens. They are made to withstand pressure. Okay? So don't worry about it. They are made to bounce back. You can see mine basically bends almost in half whenever I'm using these really thick downstrokes, which is totally fine. And then they bounce back. One thing that I do to preserve my pen is to rotate it a little bit with every stroke. So every time I draw a letter, you'll see me kind of rotating my pen a little bit like this. And that's just to make sure that my pen is wearing evenly. Again, just to make sure that you're really getting the most out of your pens. Okay. All right. So now that you guys have all of the basic strokes, let's go on to some letters. So I am going to, I'm just gonna use the same page because I don't like wasting paper. So we're gonna do all of our small letters. So our small letters are going to be S, C, V, W, and X. Okay, and I'm sure you may have seen them broken up into different groups somewhere else. This is how I can find the easiest way to batch them. And we'll draw them all a couple of times, but obviously I still want to have time to teach you connections as well as completing our piece at the very end. So I'm going to draw them, and just keep in mind there's going to be a replay of this, and you can always come ask me any questions that you have afterwards at Gracie Ann Studio up here. This is my Instagram handle, and I check it pretty regularly. So if you have any questions specifically about lettering and everything, definitely come ask me there afterwards. So to start, I'm going to start with the V because that one's a little bit easier than an S or a C. So the V is just going to be a downstroke that's going to be angled, obviously, and then start at the bottom and move back up. All right, so you can see here how much pressure I'm applying from the side. Oops, sorry, Debbie. And then back up to the top, we have our lighter upstroke. Okay. Your W is going to be just the same. It's just two V's together, right? So down at the bottom and then back up. And I'll actually show you a couple of different ways to do W's because it's going to depend on when you're lettering. You know what? Now that I think about it, I'm going to show you another. I promise I can talk. Now that I think about it, I'm going to show you another way to do a V as well that is a little bit more curved. Because this should be script, and this is starting to look a little bit like print. So again, back to V, sorry. So down, and then we're gonna go up. So I'm not gonna have that extremely sharp point at the bottom. I softened it just a little bit. But another thing you wanna add on the V, and that I forgot on those, excuse me, is this little loop. Okay, and the same thing on the W. You'll see some people that do the loop like this. That is super fancy. Just focus on this little loop for now. And this is going to be how you connect your letters. So there's always going to be a lead-in stroke and an exit stroke. I'm not going to draw the lead-in stroke here because I typically just do the exit stroke to connect the two. So you could draw a V like this, or you could draw one like this, but it's really simple. Your small letters are really just gonna go start at your X height and move down, curve up, and then over, or up, and then your little exit stroke there at the top. Okay, and then W, again, working with the side of my pen, I'm finishing one stroke, starting again with a down up. So that is essentially one of these, right? So it's starting at the bottom and curving up. And then I pick my pen up between each stroke and typically rotate it just for all the reasons we talked about a second ago. But down at the bottom, up at the top, as you're moving down, there's heavy pressure, up, light pressure, and then again, a little connection there. So you may see some W's drawn like this for connections, but I mean, that gets into more flourishing and more fancy lettering, but let's just focus on the simple connections for today. You can always create your own style. That's one of the things that we were talking about right before this call, is that even if you're going through and tracing someone else's lettering, for example, on the practice sheets, you can't help but make it your own style as you practice, because everybody's handwriting has a little bit of their own style, and it's all different. And as you practice and you play, you'll find what you like and what you don't like, and you'll create your own style. So that's my favorite part of lettering, is just that it's also unique, and it's something that you can really take your time and make your own. The next letter we'll go through is S. So let's start at the top of the S, and it'll be light pressure up for an upstroke, over to the side, and then it's going to be heavy pressure, and you'll go all the way down. Okay, you'll see for this one instant, I leave my pen at the same angle, so the thickness is not the same all the way down. You could turn your hand as you're lettering, or come back in and fill that in, or just leave it. I typically just leave it, because if you've ever seen or heard any of my stuff, you know that I'm all about being perfectly imperfect. There's always going to be a typo somewhere in something that I send. It's not for lack of trying, it's because I'm trying to do too many things at one time. So everything is perfectly imperfect to me, and we'll just leave that imperfect downstroke there. So as you get to the bottom, you can see here how I'm actually lifting up on my pen. I'll hold that up a little bit more. So that was just finishing out the stroke, and then as I hit here, I lifted my pen up to lighten up the pressure. And again, as you create muscle memory, that is really going to be the biggest place that you see a difference. So back to the S, heavy pressure on the downstroke, and then you'll come back up to finish. Okay, I typically create an exit stroke by crossing it and bringing it over. To create an exit stroke, you'll also see S's created like this, an upstroke, and then, so your traditional cursive S, essentially. Your upstroke, which is light pressure, and then your downstroke, which is heavy pressure, and then over to the side. again, for that exit stroke to connect the letters. So either way is fine. Again, you'll just create your own style and decide which letters you like and which ones you don't like. C, if you did an S, you can do a C. It's so easy. It's basically half an O. So we'll start with our upstroke, move down into our downstroke, and light pressure back for our upstroke. Let me see. C. For the C, I'm going to extend the bottom a little bit off to the side for an exit stroke. So instead of stopping it right here, if you were doing a print letter, or if this was going to stop and be the last letter in your word, you could always stop there. But again, you want to have that exit stroke so that you can connect letters. So see, and then to connect it, you would just start your next letter here. Right, so that's why you always want to finish that exit stroke, because it makes it really easy to connect letters later. Okay, that is all the small letters. So we can move on to our vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Since we already drew an A, I'll just go back over that one real quick. We'll start, essentially it's going to be a C with a closed exit stroke. So we'll start with our upstroke and then move down into the downstroke and back up to close it. So this will be one stroke, and then you'll come back and add the tail with the downstroke. And again, you'll have that exit stroke in there as well. One of the most common errors that I see, or I don't want to call it a mistake because it's not a mistake, but just something that could be corrected with A's, is starting with the downstroke instead of creating this little thin section with the upstroke. So a lot of people will start with a downstroke, and then you don't have this nice thin area of upstroke there. And I just think it kind of elongates the A a little bit. If that's your style, wonderful. But if I'm teaching somebody, I typically tell them to start with the upstroke, off to the side for a downstroke, and then back up. And again, your downstroke back into an upstroke. And obviously, there are many letters that transition from downstrokes to downstrokes to upstrokes with that curved motion. So that is why this is my favorite drill, because it just, you just move up and down, and you're just practicing your transitions essentially. And that is what the majority of the letters are. So if you're struggling with that transition, practice this as well. Oh, thank you. Whoever just said, what about X? Yes, definitely X, and I'm so sorry I forgot that. Thank you. For X, we are going to do a lead-in for this one. So we'll start, let's pretend our baseline is here. You're going to start at your baseline and have an upstroke, and then it's going to transition into a downstroke, and then back into your exit stroke or upstroke for an exit stroke. And then I like to just cross it with a straight line. Some people will get fancy and do some curved lines. So you could always add a little bit of a curve to that as well if you like that. But my style tends to be a little bit sassy, or a little bit, I don't know, just not as loopy. So I tend to do straight lines. But for X, you'll just start at the bottom and have an upstroke, transitions into a downstroke, and then another upstroke for an exit, and then just cross it. Okay, back to vowels. So for vowels, we'll move on to the E, and your E is going to be basically your C but with a little closed loop. So we'll just build off of this letter. You're going to start with the inner section in the middle and have an upstroke that loops around. Again, at the top, transition to the downstroke, and another upstroke for the exit. Again, it's so important to finish your letters and not just start, because you're going to extend that, and that is going to be your connection. And rarely are you going to write just a single letter. It's going to be about connecting your letters. So make sure you're doing your exit strokes so that you're able to do that. All right. Again, start in the middle and loop around and then transition up. One more time. Light pressure for upstrokes, heavy for downstrokes, and position or switching to an upstroke for the exit. Okay. All right. The next letter is I. So for this one, again, I'm going to do a lead-in stroke to start. You'll start with your lead-in stroke, which is going to be an upstroke, right back down into our, essentially a U, right? Your upside down U. And it'll have heavy pressure going down, light pressure going up, and your tittle, which I just learned that from my preschooler. She learned it, was called a tittle when she was learning how to write the letter I, and she was so proud of it. So now I can proudly say that I learned that from my preschooler. Again, you can do the I not with a lead in. So down at the bottom, and then you transition up just by lightening the pressure. And again, muscle memory. That's all it's going to be, is muscle memory and practice. Heavy pressure going down with light pressure going up. And when you get to about here, lighten up the pressure. Okay, a lot of people will try to lighten up the pressure here, and if you're just starting to lift your pen down here at the very bottom, then it's going to look like this, right? You're going to have this section right here that's a little bit thicker. It's not going to be that nice thin line. So start transitioning the pressure right about here, and it just takes practice. That's all there is. Okay. Let's see, next is our O's. So we've already done those, but we'll do them again. I'm going to start with light pressure for my upstroke, down into my downstroke, and again, transition that pressure. And I tend to trace over my initial upstroke just to make sure that the consistency of the line, or the thickness of the line, is going to be the same there. And getting perfect O's is a drill all in itself. So we'll just start light, apply pressure, and then again, we're lightening up that pressure starting at about right here. Right, just start lightening it earlier, and it'll, your brain just takes a second to catch up or something. I don't know what it is, but lightening it earlier usually allows you to get that nice thin bottom there. Okay, so now there's U, and we've basically been doing U's this entire time. So, oh, connections, yes, connections for the O, very important. That actually completely changes how I draw them. So for an O, I would start with the downstroke. Let's see. Start over. Start with the downstroke, lighten up into the upstroke, and then you loop it around. So instead of starting with the upstroke, I'm sorry, erase everything I just said about the O's. That was for drills, and whoever just said, what about connections? Thank you, because that totally changes us. Start with your downstroke, have your upstroke, and then you kind of have like a little mini O, just a mini loop where you're applying pressure and then again lightening it. So we'll go down and then up, and you can connect it. Lots of people, O's can get very fancy very fast. You can also connect them just like this by making this O, but bringing it straight out to the side. I tend to do O's like this quite a lot. You could also make a larger loop and connect it this way. Again, this is all about creating your own style. right? So as you letter and look at your own handwriting, you'll figure out which one of all these variations fits in the best, and it may be a combination of all of them depending on the letter. So always good to have options with those, especially if you have double letters. It's good to pick 2 different ones so that you don't have the same thing 2 in a row. And I'll actually show you that at the very end whenever we're writing our practice makes progress. Okay, you. Now on to you. For you, it's going to be just basically every single letter that we've been doing. So start with a downstroke and curve it into your upstroke, and then another downstroke. You have your downstroke up into an upstroke. I don't curve it all the way up just because I don't want the 2 downstrokes to be too far away from each other. I don't want it to look like separate letters or an exit stroke, right? It's going to be part of the same letter still. So then I overlap that with my downstroke, and it creates our U. Let's see. Okay, so the next section is going to be for our straight downstrokes. So we've been working a lot with our curved ones, but now let's move to our straight downstrokes. So let's see, that is going to be M, N, T, and R. Okay. So I refer to these as straight downstrokes because the first stroke for all of them is just going to be a straight downstroke. Start at the top, move down for letter M, and then you'll start at the bottom with an upstroke that curves into a downstroke. So that is going to be the second part of this, right? You're starting at the bottom, working your way down, and ending at that downstroke. Okay, and then again, the same thing for the second part of the M, up and all the way over. And then you would transition back up into your exit stroke. Straight downstroke down, up and transition over into your downstroke, and then back up and into your exit stroke. And when you're transitioning, when you get really good at transitioning, you don't have to stop between every single one. You can see it becomes a little bit smoother. There's a little bit more fluidity to your letters. So again, just practice. It's just muscle memory. And even just, you know, sitting down with something on TV and doing drills or writing the alphabet. A lot of times I will just practice by writing the alphabet or picking one letter and trying to master that one letter. But it's going to be great. You guys are going to you're going to learn a lot and just practice, and I promise we'll get it. So the next letter is letter N, and it is just, oh sure, I'll do one more M. So we have our downstroke down, start at the bottom with an upstroke, turn over into a downstroke, and then again that same motion, but you have your exit stroke, which is an upstroke. Right? For the letter N, you have a downstroke down at the bottom, up and over into a downstroke and your exit. So it's basically half an M, right? Again, a downstroke up at the bottom, and you have your curve. The letter T is going to start a little bit higher, right? Because it has an ascender. So we'll start up at the top, down, and then transition for our exit stroke. And then for the crossbar, I mean, doing crossbars and adding all of your flourishing is its own course, but you can either cross it straight or again down and then back up, or you can kind of add a little bit of a curve to it. I would just keep it opposite curves for each side. For the letter R, start at the bottom and you have a curve up for your upstroke. I usually have light pressure for my slight down, and then your straight downstroke, and then the exit stroke. So downstroke, and then it transitioned into an upstroke. Again, ours, there is so much variation for these. Another way some people like to do it is to have an upstroke that loops around rather than just this straight edge. But again, you would still have the straight downstroke into an exit stroke. Okay, to connect the T to the letter before it, you're gonna use the previous letter's exit stroke. So if it was, well, I did it over here, right? Like C-A-T, so the end of cat. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to loop letters. We're getting kind of close to 8 o'clock, so we're gonna go over. Again, if you have to drop off, that's fine. There's gonna be a replay, but I'm gonna keep going and we're gonna go through the alphabet and then do our letters. But I am gonna pick up the pace a little bit just so that we can get through the whole alphabet without keeping everyone for too long. So the next one is going to be our loop letters. So they will have a loop somewhere in it, essentially, and most of them have ascenders as well. So these are going to be H, L, D, F, K, B, and then I have R written down, but we just went over that here. You would just add your loop to that curve. Okay, so for H, again, it starts with your straight downstroke, but this time we're going to add a loop to the ascender. So you're basically starting at about the X height. So you'll start in the middle with an upstroke and then transition to a downstroke that goes all the way down from the ascender line all the way down to the baseline. And then again, start at the baseline and transition up to the X height and transition down into a downstroke, and then have your exit stroke as well. Okay, your L is, again, going to start in the middle, transition up to the ascender line, downstroke all the way down to the baseline, and then transitions to your exit stroke. So very simple, very straightforward. It's mostly just about extending that letter and making sure that there is a difference between your ascender line and your X height, right? Just making sure that those are taller letters. Yep, exactly, because it can look like an E if you don't have it right next to an E, right? If you don't have any kind of reference there, it could look like a really extended E, which is why it's so important to keep your ascender height and your X height and everything separate, everything on its own line and how it connects and relates to each other. Keep that all consistent. Okay, next is a D. So for the D, we're going to basically do the beginning of an A, and it's going to be an A and an L put together. So once you've kind of learned all these pieces, you're just putting the letters in different combinations. So we'll start again with our upstroke and flip back over, right? So that's just like starting our A. And then we'll do it just like we did our L. Okay, start in the middle and then go up and down to a D and then all the way up. I'm going to go through all the letters, so you guys hang out as long as you want to. We'll get through all of them, I promise. For a B, we'll start in the middle and have a light upstroke into a downstroke. So the start of a B and the start of an H, those are exactly the same, right? And as you work through this, again, you'll see that you're just taking different pieces and putting together in new ways. It's about drawing the letters. It's not about just writing out your grocery list. So each stroke is drawn. So you have your start of the B, and then you'll start down at the bottom, but this time we're going to go up and down, right? So down at the bottom for an upstroke, and then you'll transition in at the bottom for a downstroke. And for the exit stroke for the B, some people will flip it back out like this, kind of like your traditional cursive. I like to flip it over and curve it up. So again, down, whoops, it's off the page, goodness. Down at the bottom, we'll start in the middle and move up for an upstroke. Transition all the way down to the baseline for our downstroke. And again, start at the baseline, transition into your downstroke, and then for your exit stroke, just take an up or a light pressure and kind of curve it across. Okay. And one more time for the D, we'll start again, just like we did for an A, light pressure into heavy pressure for the downstroke, and then again, transition that back into the upstroke. And to create the L, I typically start right here where my two upstrokes meet. So I'm going to start my D with an upstroke that goes all the way up to the ascender line, transition to a downstroke, and transition to a downstroke and back into an upstroke for my exit. Okay. And that is all the loop letters. So let me grab another piece of paper and we'll go through our letters with tails. Well, good. I'm glad some of you guys are staying. Let's see. All right. Oh, K. Ha, thank you. And F. Goodness. I need to start crossing these off, right? All right. We did H, we did L, we did D, G, and R. F and K. Backing up. Let's see. Okay. For K, it's going to be the same start as a B and an H. So you will start at the X height and work your way up and down. So up with your upstrokes is light pressure, transitioning down all the way down to your baseline. And for this one, I'm going to start at the bottom of my baseline and have a upstroke. And you're going to curve it over to create that top loop and transition it into an upstroke. Or, goodness, strike that and reverse it. Upstroke transitioned into a downstroke, okay? And then down at the bottom, I just flip it with a downstroke into an upstroke again here. So there are 3 different strokes for the for a K. You have your ascender, your loop, and your exit stroke. Okay. I also see them, I actually do my Ks like this a little bit more. That's just a little bit, I don't know, a little bit funkier, I guess. But this is going to be your traditional loop K. F. Okay, for F, you will start at your baseline and go all the way to the ascender. Have a downstroke that goes all the way past the baseline. So we'll draw those in real quick. And then you'll transition back up and meet at the baseline. And your exit stroke will just flip up from the baseline and it'll just be an upstroke. Okay. A little bit of a fancy, well, two things with the F. A lot of times an F will be, well, not a lot of times, I don't know. Sometimes it's at the beginning of a letter or at the beginning of a word. And this it just kind of looks funky to me, right? Like I want to start and I want to have a lead-in stroke for that, just to kind of finish it some. So I typically start my lead-in stroke and just add a little bit of a curve with an upstroke, just to make it look a little bit more finished. Okay. So down at the bottom, let's do an F again, and this one is going to have a little bit more of a loop. So down at the bottom, start with the upstrokes around into our downstroke all the way to the descender line. And then instead of curving back up here, I'm going to loop it around and finish it like this. So if I'm drawing that without stopping, it's going to look more like that. Again, it helps a lot if you have an F in, if you have the F in context with another letter. So that makes it look more like an F. Okay, so our last set of letters is going to be our tail letters. And then since we've already talked about connections and lead-in strokes a lot, I think we'll just go straight into our project after that. So we have Z, Y, P, J, G, and Q. Okay. And then after that, we'll go straight into our project and it won't take too long. So we have our Z, which I'm gonna draw some lines because I think that'll just be helpful for you guys. So your Z is going to start at the baseline. See how you guys can see this. Start at the baseline and it's going to look like this. Kind of funky. I mean, if you guys know cursive, these are basically just cursive letters and applying thin and thicks to them. But instead of just writing them all in one stroke, we're going to break them apart, right? Okay, so you start at the bottom and curve it in. It's not straight down, it's not off to the side, it's back in. And then you start where you ended that downstroke, and you come around and curve it up. So I'm going to do that again. Down at the bottom, you'll curve up and in for a downstroke, and then start right where you left the downstroke off, and you'll have an upstroke, a downstroke down to the descender line, and then you'll curve back up and cross it over for an exit stroke. Okay. Y is going to be the start of a U. So you'll start the downstroke that transitions into an upstroke. And then at the X height, start your next one and have a downstroke all the way up into an upstroke for a tail. Okay, so same thing. Downstroke into an upstroke, and then your downstroke is going to go all the way down into a tail that crosses over for a exit stroke. Okay. P is going to start, let me draw these again. P is going to, cover that up. P is going to start with a straight downstroke all the way down to your descender line, and then you'll finish it with an upstroke into a downstroke. And this is going to be the same as a B. Let's see, so this section of the B, that's going to be how you finish your P as well. So downstroke, and then your exit stroke just loops over. Okay. Pretty simple. Again, all of these could be flourished completely different ways, and flourishing is its own class in itself. But finding your own style, you will be able to find what variations of all of these that you really like. J, you'll start at, a J is essentially going to be the tail of Y. right? So you'll start at the X height, have a downstroke that loops up into an upstroke. X height all the way down to the descender line and loops around. Let's see, Z, Y, P, J. All right, G. For lowercase g, we're going to start the same way we did an A, right? It'll be the start of an A with the connection or the tail of a Y, essentially. So we'll have off to the side, upstroke, into a downstroke, back into an upstroke, but it's not that perfect circle. It's got a little bit of a point to it. And then you'll add your tail, which starts up at the X height and curves around for your exit stroke. Again, upstroke into a downstroke and back up. So the start of an A, and then the tail we learned in a Y. Okay, and Q. So Q, exactly the same, start as a G, up and around, but instead of instead of looping around, we're gonna loop back. So your Q goes down and then it loops up this way. So the tail of an F, essentially, right? So we're just combining those letters in new ways. And then back out for your exit stroke. I like to loop my Q around like this, again, similar to the F, to give it a little bit more of a loop and just a little bit more flourishing, but again, everybody's style is different. All right. Before we go on to making our final piece, do you guys have any questions over the letters?
Grace, we had a request if you could just briefly show each of the pages just so everybody could kind of see all of the letters.
Yep. Let me find the start. There we go. Yeah, great idea. Okay, so where did we start? There's all of the small letters and some of the vowels. And then down at the bottom, we have our vowels all the way up to our straight letters, or the straight downstrokes, and our loop letters, and the last page.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. All right, let's get to that last piece then. Let's see, what color did I start with over here? So this is what we're gonna make. Again, we have practice makes progress, and I completely think that that is true. I don't think that it'll ever be totally perfect, especially with lettering. There's always going to be something that you can improve on. So I like to say practice makes progress rather than practice makes perfect. So to start, I'm going to pick up my blue, which is the 528, same one we've been using. And this is actually a pretty handy tool. I didn't list it in the supplies, but it is on the lettering supplies list. If you don't have a pen or a paper with lines on it, I like to use my laser level to show a baseline. So I get all of my letters straight in a row. So I'm going to start with writing practice. So we'll start with our downstroke for a P, start at the baseline and say up into an upstroke and then down into our downstroke. And again, we're going to connect that. So we have our exit stroke, and that exit stroke is actually going to be the beginning stroke for our R. So instead of starting at the baseline, I'm going to start just with that little kind of top hat on our R, and then have our downstroke and our exit stroke. And then we'll have A, so starting over here for our upstroke, curving around and up, and then your downstroke, and C. And again, I know the next letter is T, so I extended my exit stroke a little bit more so that I can cover it with the downstroke. So T, we're going to start up here at what would be the ascender line, have a downstroke, curves into our exit stroke, and then I'm going to have an I, or ACTI, C, and E. Okay, and then we'll add our tittle and the crossbar. I tend to do any kind of crossbar last, just to make sure that whatever I'm crossing, or sometimes even when I'm adding in the tails for lettering, I wait until the very end just to make sure that they fit in with my composition and I'm not writing over any letters that I need, that I shouldn't. All right, so I'm going to move my laser level down and switch colors. And we'll have our M. We'll start with your straight downstroke. Start at your baseline and up and over. And back up and over into your exit stroke. And then A again, starting with your upstroke. Into our K. I also like this because I think that it has a lot of different connections and a bunch of different letters in it. So I like that we're getting to see different letter combinations and connections as well. To finish our K again, we'll start at the baseline and have our loop and then our downstroke into our exit. E, and I'm gonna draw my S like this time. Makes. And our last line has a little bit of everything in it. So progress. Again, we'll start with our P into an R. So again, using that exit stroke as our first line for our R. We get to have an O. I'm going to loop it around for my connection. So into a G. You'll notice for my O, when I'm connecting, I'm not coming down here to the bottom to the baseline. I'm letting the connection be on the X height, and that's fine. You just draw over it with the downstroke of the next letter. So we have our G, and again, that G into an R, the first stroke of the R is actually going to be the exit stroke of the previous letter. And then the double S. Again, when we're looking at double letters, a lot of times if you try to do them exactly the same, it's not going to look exactly right. So I try to either vary their size or their style or add a loop to one and not the other. But just try to vary them somehow so that they're at least a little bit different. It just adds a little bit more character to your lettering. So I'm going to have my first S and my second S. So this one I made a little bit smaller. I made my loop a little bit smaller, and I also curved the exit line back around. Right? And then to finish it off, I'm just going to use the yellow 0226 just to add a few flicks just for fun. And there you go. All right, you guys have any last questions for me? Because that is all I have.
This is awesome, Grace. If anyone has any last minute questions, you can send them to Tombow and I will ask them of Grace. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Grace, for teaching us. Yeah, it was great. I think everybody really enjoyed getting to go through the whole alphabet. So one person is asking, what is that laser level called?
Oh, A laser level.
It's just a laser level.
I got
Okay.
mine on Amazon, I think. I've had it for years, but I listed it again on the supplies that I like. So it'll be on that lettering supplies list under extra supplies or something like that.
Perfect. And Grace is actually teaching another brush lettering class next week where she'll go over some more advanced techniques that you can do with the dual brush pens. So hopefully you guys will join us for that one next week as well.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much to Grace.
Thanks, you guys.